It's widely recognized that the United States is the world's leading military superpower, spending more on its military than the next 10 highest spending countries combined. However, when it comes to manufacturing, China holds the top spot. In 2020, China accounted for a staggering 35% of global manufacturing output, more than the combined production of the United States, Japan, Germany, India, South Korea, Italy, France, and the United Kingdom. Amid ongoing geopolitical tensions between China and the United States, coupled with supply chain disruptions affecting manufacturers and consumers, there's been increasing discussion about shifting global manufacturing away from China. Yet, despite efforts from the US and Europe to reduce dependency on China, it remains the dominant force in manufacturing. In this video, we'll explore how China continues to be the world's factory, despite trade wars, tariffs, and rising tensions with the West. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel Xrainer to show your support. The next China is still China. The late Henry Kissinger, former U.S. Secretary of State, is often credited with opening China to the West during President Richard Nixon's administration. However, it wasn't until 2000 that the U.S. granted China permanent normal trade relations. This legal designation allowed China to be treated like other members of the World Trade Organization, effectively granting it most favored nation status. This move cemented China's growing role in global trade. Since then, a significant portion of the world's manufacturing has shifted to China, attracted by its low-cost labor and favorable government policies. These policies include massive investments in infrastructure and trade capacity. However, China's remarkable economic rise has also sparked numerous geopolitical challenges, ranging from spy balloons to accusations of unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. This sparked an active trade war between the US and China. In 2018, President Donald Trump escalated the conflict by imposing tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. This move intensified the pressure on global companies to shift their manufacturing to lower-cost destinations across Asia, such as Bangladesh, India, and Vietnam. After the pandemic wreaked havoc on global supply chains, there were calls to bring manufacturing closer to home through nearshoring, like building factories in Mexico for the U.S. market, or reshoring back to home countries. Despite these significant financial and political pressures, many companies have been reluctant to move much of their production out of China. Why? Because China has truly mastered the art of manufacturing? China's unparalleled manufacturing ecosystem is one of its greatest strengths. The country's manufacturing industry thrives on a highly integrated network, or ecosystem, of production capabilities. Take the example of producing a hoodie. It's not just about sourcing the textiles needed to cut and sew the fabric. It's also about the trims, dyes, zippers, cords, and all the other components required to assemble the final product. China has strategically ensured that the entire manufacturing supply chain is located within its borders and has perfected each step of the process. For instance, China imports and processes much of the world's wool and cotton, including a substantial portion of U.S.-grown cotton, which accounts for about 35% of the global total. This cotton is processed, made into fabric, dyed, and then sewn into clothing and other products, which are subsequently exported worldwide, including back to the U.S. as finished goods. The entire textile production ecosystem, from raw material to finished product, is centralized in China, and this integration extends beyond just textiles. It applies to all the components involved in manufacturing various goods. If a retailer in the US or Canada wanted to shift textile production out of China, they would have to relocate the entire ecosystem. Otherwise, they would still need to source inputs from China, even if final production occurred elsewhere, such as in Bangladesh. This comprehensive ecosystem is the core reason why China remains the undisputed manufacturing king, making it difficult for other countries to replace its role. Why decoupling from China is nearly impossible. China's industrialization is unprecedented. The last time a global manufacturing leader was dethroned was when the US overtook the UK just before World War I. It took the US nearly a century to reach the top, but China's rise to surpass the US took just 15 to 20 years. China's rapid industrialization, in short, is unmatched. Consider this as a 25-lap horse race, with each lap representing a year. The excitement was mostly in the first 13 laps, as data only goes back to 1995. China started the race slightly ahead of Canada, Britain, France, and Italy. It passed Germany in 1998, Japan in 2005, and finally the US in 2008. Since then, China has more than doubled its share of global manufacturing, while the US share has declined by another 3 percentage points. If this were an actual horse race, the dominance China has shown would have left the audience bored years ago, as the outcome became increasingly predictable. In an effort to curb China's rise, the US government has imposed multiple rounds of unilateral sanctions and launched what Washington insiders call a technology war against China. These actions include export restrictions in cutting-edge sectors such as 5G, semiconductors, quantum computing, and artificial intelligence. Western governments have pledged to decouple from the Chinese economy and reduce risks in strategically important industries. However, this decoupling doesn't seem to be happening. China has historically been more reliant on sales to the US than the other way around. In the mid-2000s, China's dependence on the US was 10 times greater than the US's dependence on China. But this imbalance has narrowed significantly, indicating that the US is now much more dependent on purchasing Chinese manufactured goods than China is on the US market to sell its exports. When you put all the pieces together, it reveals a significant and historically impactful asymmetry in supply chain reliance between China and other major manufacturing countries. While politicians may wish to decouple their economies from China, these data suggest that doing so would be difficult, slow, costly, and disruptive, especially for G7 manufacturers. Finally, here's something important to consider. Chinese manufacturing is no longer as dependent on exports as many might think. In the early days of its rapid growth, exports were growing faster than production. However, production soon began outpacing export growth, indicating that domestic sales were becoming increasingly important, alongside booming exports. This challenges the myth that China's success is solely due to its export market. Since around 2004, China has increasingly become its own best customer. Today, China stands as the world's only true manufacturing giant, as evidenced by its recent success in electric vehicles. Its vast and robust industrial base provides it with a competitive edge in virtually every sector. Do you agree with our analysis? Share your thoughts and leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to show your support. Thank you for watching.